What is going on, snooker fans? Welcome back to the channel. Now, the World Championship is just around the corner. I can see it, you can see it. We're all thinking about it daily. I mean, at least I am, at least. You know, that opening Saturday, Luke Brissell starting his title defence, 10 a.m. Saturday morning, Crucible, Sheffield. The BBC, I can feel it. But we're not quite there yet. And there is one more big tournament to preview before we get there. And that is next week's Tour Championship, the culmination of the ITV series where you've had the Grand Prix, which was the top 32 on the 1 year list, the Players' Champs, the top 16 on the 1 year list, and now the Tour Championship next week, which is now the top 12 on the 1 year list and not the top 8, which it has been ever since it started back in 2020. Didn't actually realise Snooker had made that change until a couple of weeks ago. I say a couple of weeks. No, it was last week at the World Open when they were talking about it being a 12-man field instead of an 8-man field. Didn't realise that. And to be honest, I don't really know why they've changed it. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the 8-man event. Actually, it made more sense. 32, 16, 8 makes complete sense. You've got 8 players automatically in the quarterfinals, straight shootout from there to the final to see the winner. I don't know why they've changed it. There's a rumour that because last year the tournament didn't have players like O'Sullivan, Trump, Robertson, because they had slightly poorer seasons, that the event has been increased slightly to make sure that there are bigger names. And if that is true, that's quite disappointing for my TV and Matchroom Sport. If your main focus of these tournaments is to make sure you've always got the bigger players, that's not really encompassing the tour as a whole. And, would you rather have the top 8 informed players of a season, or would you try and guarantee you've got the bigger names, even though the bigger names might not be in as good as form as other players higher up on the list? It's not something that I'm going to sort of lose sleep over. But it was a weird decision to increase it to 12. And by increasing it to 12, it means that the format of the tournament has slightly changed. It is still best of 19s all the way through, as far as I'm aware. But now you've got the top 4 seeds automatically through to the quarterfinals, where they would have been anyway. And then you've got the players seeded 5 to 12 in a preliminary round to join those top 4 seeds in the quarterfinals. And look, on one hand, you could say, why the hell are you complaining? It means we get more snooker, we get more best of 19s. Absolutely valid point. But yeah, I still don't particularly see why they've made that change, but they've made that change. So let's go ahead straight into the draw. We're going to try and preview the tournament as best we can, see who's going to win their opening matches, see who's going to win the tournament. And like I say, the last title before the World Championship is now up for grabs. So if we just go straight into the first sort of mini section of the draw, Judd Trump, the number 1 seed of the tournament, the number 1 player of the season according to the seeding list. Winner of 5 titles, including the World Open last week. He's automatically through to the quarterfinals. And he'll play the winner of either Mark Williams or Tom Ford. Obviously, Mark Williams is mainly here from his win at the British Open, sort of right at the start of the season. And Tom Ford, he's enjoyed arguably his most consistent spell on tour. He reached the final of the International Championship, and he's reached a couple of other quarterfinals during the season as well, which has cemented not only his place here, but his place as a top 16 seed at the Crucible as well. Looking at the head-to-head between the pair, if we exclude the Championship League, it's a pretty resounding played 11, won 10 for Mark Williams. But the one and only win that Tom Ford has had over the Welshman came at the 2015 UK Championship, where he won 6-5. Head-to-head wise, obviously, looking entirely favours Mark Williams. But we haven't really seen too much of him since that win at the British Open. He got to the quarterfinals of the UK Championship, where he got very close to beating Ding Junhui, and he also got to the quarterfinals of the World Grand Prix a couple of months ago. Every now and then he's got a decent run in him. But it's a difficult match to call, because I think Tom Ford has slightly fallen off a little bit from that really great start to the season he had. He's not picked up as many good results in the past few tournaments. Same can be said for Mark Williams. So, they're both here on full merit. But arguably out of the field, they're two of the sort of less informed players. So this could be close. And a best of 19 is a massive test for anyone. And I think it's just that fact. It's the fact that it is a best of 19 means I'm just going to favour Mark Williams slightly. If it was a shorter format, I think it would be definitely more of a 50-50. But in this sort of best of 19, I'm going to favour the experience of Mark Williams to get through sort of something like, 10-7, 10-6. But then you've got to play Judd Trump. And both of these players are obviously capable of beating Judd. Unfortunately, though, I don't fancy either of them to do it. I think Judd Trump beats either of them with a bit to spare. So out of that section, Judd Trump, I know it's not exactly the most bold prediction, but it has to be Judd Trump to get to the semi-finals there. Then we go into the second section of the draw, and we've got Ding Junhui, who's the 4th seed, and perhaps a little bit surprising that he's the 4th seed, considering he's not won a tournament, and there are players below him in the seedings that have won multiple titles this season. But Ding's mainly here thanks to finalist at the UK Championship and last week's World Open, and he's also reached 4 other quarterfinals this season. So even though he's not been bringing home the silverware, he has been remarkably sort of consistent. In that quarterfinal, he will play either Mark Allen, a winner of 2 titles this season, the Champion of Champions, which was an invitational event, and the main ticket here was his win at the World Grand Prix, and then John Higgins, another player who's not won a title. Actually, a player that's not reached a final this season. But again, very strong consistency to make it through to the top 12 on that one-year list. And these guys will always give us a great match. Match to the Masters, fantastic. It's always going to be close. And John Higgins, I've said a couple of times, I think he's playing well. It's just every now and then he's got a dodgy miss in him, and that costs him, particularly against the top players who will always punish you. Mark Allen, also I've talked about a lot as a player that I think has been unfairly criticised somewhat for his new style of play. He's no longer the fast, free-flowing break builder. He's more of the measured match player. And whether you like that or not, the results speak for themselves. It's improved him as a player. It's improved his results. And yeah, why wouldn't he stick to that method? And the ability to mix it up in that safety department is going to work wonders for him against John Higgins. It's why he's got a very strong record against him as well. But with all that said, I'm going to back John Higgins here. I don't really have a reason other than it's a gut feeling. I think John is due a good run. And this match is going to be incredibly close. It's a really lovely appetizer for the World Championship where both of these players will want to make an impact. But yeah, I'm going to go for John Higgins to win maybe like 10-8 and to set up that match against Ding Junhui. And I think he could actually win that as well. Ding's obviously playing really well. We saw that firsthand last week. But to be honest, when I look at this section, I kind of think either John or Mark would beat him. Not to say it wouldn't be close, not to say Ding can't win, of course he can. But yeah, just in my head, I think the winner of that initial match will then win the quarterfinal to meet Judd Trump in the semi-finals. And yeah, I'm going to go for John Higgins again. So the first semi-final would be John Higgins, Judd Trump. You'd probably fancy Judd Trump again. God, it's really boring. I can already see it. I haven't planned it out in my head yet, but I know I'm just going to predict a Judd Trump Ronnie O'Sullivan final. I am that vanilla. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't see any other outcome here. It's going to be a John Higgins, Judd Trump semi-final. Judd Trump's going to win it. Now we go into section 3, and in my opinion, the best section of the draw, at least the most open section. You've got Zhang Anda, the number 3 seeds. He's had, what an incredible season. First title at the International Championship, 2 other finals, 2 other quarterfinals, fully deserving not only of his place at the tournament, but fully deserving of that number 3 seed. And he's straight through to the quarterfinals, where he will either play Gary Wilson or Mark Selby. Now, Gary Wilson has won 2 titles. He's won the Scottish Open and also the Welsh Open. So 2 of the Home Nation Series titles he's landed this season. And he's up against Mark Selby, who hasn't won a single title. Well, no, that is a lie. I suppose he has won the Championship League. Do we count the Championship League? I mean, I personally don't, but I suppose, in fairness, he does have a trophy in his cabinet from this season. But this is a really, really good match. And I feel like if you're looking at a warm-up for the World Championship, this could be 2 ideal warm-up matches for Mark Selby to see where his game is at and where it's going to be at the World Championship. Gary Wilson, if we exclude the Championship League again, he does have a heavy favourable head-to-head. He's got an 8-2 head-to-head in favour of himself. But Gary Wilson has beaten him at the World Championship. But then Mark Selby also beat Gary at last season's World Championship. Both have played at the last 16 stage at the Crucible, so it's 1 win apiece there. And yes, it's interesting because I think Mark Selby is playing pretty well. That 6-0 win against O'Sullivan a few weeks ago demonstrated that. He's just not able to sort of land enough punches in a tournament to get all the way through to win the title. But overall, I think his game is good. I think his confidence is back. And this is a really tough match to call. I know the head-to-head is so strongly in Mark Selby's favour, but Gary Wilson is just a banana skin for everyone. Not only is he banana skin, but he's a genuine threat to all tournaments now. You can't win 2 titles in a season and 3 titles overall and not start to become a genuine threat and a genuine contender for titles. This one, I keep thinking Mark Selby's going to win it. But then Mark Selby has this kind of hoodoo on the ITV. He's never won an ITV tournament, which is bizarre. He did get to a final on ITV earlier this season at the British Open. So, he's getting closer. But it is a really bizarre sort of statistic that he's never won an ITV tournament, seeing that there's 4 or 5 of them at least, and they've been going on for the best part of the past 5 or 6 years. But I'm gonna stick to my bets. I'm going to put Mark Selby to get through this one. I think it could be a battle. But like I say, the absolute perfect warm-up for the World Championship for Mark Selby as he goes to try and get a 5th world title. But yeah, maybe something like 10-7 again, Mark Selby. And then he plays Zhang Anda. And Zhang Anda's beaten him already this season at I think it was the World Grand Prix. When Zhang was 4-0 up, it went to a decider, and then Zhang got over the line. So Zhang will not fear playing Mark Selby whatsoever. Again, though, it's the additional distance, and that's the only doubt I have in my mind. Zhang Anda, he's already won a title winning a best of 19, so he can clearly win over the longer format as well. But beating a player that, when the matches get longer, he becomes more and more difficult to beat, this will be a huge feather in his cap if he does manage to pull it off. But again, my head is saying, if Gary Wilson beats Selby, I think Zhang Anda beats Gary Wilson. But if Selby beats Wilson, I think Selby also beats Zhang Anda. And yeah, in my head, Selby's going to win the opening match. So it'll be Selby to beat Zhang Anda, something like 10-8, and Selby through to the semi-finals. And then finally, we finish off the draw with the number 2 seeds and the other player to have won 5 titles this season, Ronnie O'Sullivan. And we've talked in great depth about how incredible this season has been, how he's won the UK Championship, the Masters, and is potentially on course for winning the season Triple Crown and a record 8th world title. But before he gets there, he's got one more title to win, a title he has won before, back in 2020, and then he was runner-up again in 2021, automatically through to the quarterfinal, and he will play either Barry Hawkins or Ali Carter. Barry Hawkins had that exceptional start to the season. Obviously, he started the season outside of the top 16. He then automatically got himself back into the top 16, winning the European Masters. And he sort of had a really rich vein of form in the first half of the season. and it kind of threatened to disappear sort of since the turn of the year. He wasn't really picking up any results, but he did have a really good run last week at the World Open to the quarterfinals. Didn't play amazingly in his quarterfinal against Neil Robertson, but it took a lot of positives from that season. So from that tournament. Just to say that his season isn't fully dead yet, and he's still got a lot of life left to give. And he's up against Ali Carter, two-time finalist this season at the Masters and also the Wuhan Open. And he's also reached another 2 semi-finals. So again, incredible consistency. He's another player, sort of in a similar vein to Tom Ford, who have just found something from somewhere in their game. They've always been danger men, but they've never been able to string consistent tournaments results back to back. Ali Carter's found a way to do that. He's found a way to sort of manage his emotions better on the table. He's playing a more attacking game, which sort of in contrast to Mark Allen, I think Ali Carter going from a sort of 50-50 player to a not full out attacking, but more attacking player has helped in no end. Looking at the head-to-head between them, it is again a head-to-head heavily in favour of Ali Carter, 8 wins to 1. But to be fair, even if I didn't look at the head-to-head, I still would have backed Ali Carter. I think Carter's been getting really good results against big players on the big occasions. He's beaten Judd Trump twice this season. So I can actually see this one maybe being the most one-sided match of the tournament. I've gone for Ali Carter to win maybe 10-5. And then, I don't know, some O'Sullivan's fans would say this is a dream matchup. Some would say it's an absolute nightmare matchup. But I don't think there's a player O'Sullivan fans like O'Sullivan to beat more than Ali Carter. Maybe Mark Selby. And there's a potential that he could play both of them this tournament. But yeah, if it's O'Sullivan Ali Carter quarterfinal, that's a good match. That is a really good match. But I can kind of see it going the same way that Masters final went. I can see Ali Carter maybe getting an early lead, or at least keeping it close with Ronnie up until the end, where I think O'Sullivan will sort of stretch away to a sort of 10-7, 10-6 win. And so yeah, I really am that boring. It's O'Sullivan to get through, and then O'Sullivan would play Mark Selby in the semi-final. So yeah, O'Sullivan fans would be absolutely treated here. You're not going to like what I'm going to predict, though. I just feel like Mark Selby... Yeah, for some reason, if I'm picturing a winner of this tournament, I'm either picturing Trump or Selby. So I've gone for Selby to win, let's say 10-9 in the semi-finals against O'Sullivan. And that would leave you with a final between Judd Trump and Mark Selby. And I'm trying to think if Judd Trump and Mark Selby have played in a final before. Maybe was it the China Open, the first tournament Judd ever won back in 2011? I think it was Mark Selby he beat in the final. And obviously Judd Trump has an exceptional record against Mark Selby. Not only does he beat Mark Selby, but he usually beats him pretty convincingly. But they rarely play in long matches. I don't think they've ever played at the Crucible. And, obviously, like I say, very rarely play in finals. So it'll be a match to savour if I've got this right, which I 100% haven't. But if it is, I will plump for, just because I don't want to be boring and I can't keep predicting Judd Trump or O'Sullivan to win all the time. So I'm going to go for Mark Selby to win his first proper title of the season. And let's say Mark Selby will win 10-8 in that final. So yeah, as always, I probably got those predictions horribly wrong. You'll probably get something like a Zhang and a Mark Williams final or something like that. But yeah, those are my predictions. Let me know in the comments who you think are going to win the tournament, who do you think's a surprise package maybe, and who do you think is going to find their game at the perfect time going into Crucible. I always love to hear your thoughts as always. Give the video a like if you enjoyed, give me a subscribe if you want to hang around for more snooker content. Like I said, there is going to be so much coming on the channel over the next few weeks with the World Championship around the corner. But as always, enjoy the snooker, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.